Hello everybody, how are you guys doing today with another bookish video about the books I want to read in 2024. Obviously January is already slowly coming to an end, but still there's more than 11 months ahead and I have some reading plans. First up, a very quick wrap up of my 2023 TBR. And that is that I basically read nothing from that TBR. My year ended up being so chaotic and I just didn't get around to most of these books. From the top 5 that I had on that list, I only read 2. One was Fresh Banana Leaves and the other one was A Day of Fallen Night. From the other books, besides the top 5, I also only read 2. One was Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson and the other one was the first book in the Gilded Wolves trilogy. I am not someone who carries her TBR from the last year into the new year because I don't believe in forcing myself to read stuff when I'm not in the mood for it, and just because it was on a TBR at some point, I created a new TBR. Of course, some books did cross over because I just really wanted to read them and I just didn't get to them. But there are also some new books here. Just like in all the past years, this is not a set list like I will 100% read these books. No, it is a list of books that I'm the most excited for going into 2024 and that I hope I will get to. But if I don't, there will be no punishment or anything. This year, there is also going to be a little extra section about the Climathon, which is running all year in 2024, not only 1 month. And I'm so excited to get to it. But we are starting out with 10 books I really want to read in 2024 in general. The first one is The Art of Prophecy, which is from my 2023 TBR. I really wanted to get to this book and I just never got around to it. But I really want to get to it and I hope I can still do so this winter. This is a martial arts fantasy from what I understand of it, and I'm just so excited for some badass people. Another one from the list from the last year is From Here to Eternity, which is a non-fiction book about death around the world, which I've wanted to read for years, but I feel like 2024 might be finally the year for it. Then we have The Burning God by R.F. Kuang, which is the third and final book in the Poppy War trilogy. I am currently in the middle of the Dragon Republic, so it's kind of both of them on the TBR, but I started the Dragon Republic in 2023. And I'm not super into the Dragon Republic. I love the Poppy War, 5 stars, love the book. But the Dragon Republic somehow isn't doing it for me, which is why I'm not making a lot of progress and I'm very slow. But I do want to finish the trilogy. I really hope that the third book is gonna redeem the second one, so I'm excited to dive into this one. Another book I'm already in the middle of is this one. The English title is Women Who Run with the Wolves, and this is like a very thick spiritual book about like female wilderness, I would say, and like stories about female empowerment and stuff. I've heard some mixed things about this book and I am currently buddy reading this with my friend Anya from Well Traveled Books, which is why I've already started this and why it's on this TBR. Then I have on my list Why Has No One Told Me This Before? This is a book about psychology and psychological tools you can use in your everyday life. And I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book and I think it could be very useful. Then I have The Silk Road, A New History of the World, which I've also heard amazing things about. I love the cover. I'm obsessed with it. I feel like there should be more purple books. I don't have enough purple books. I love this one. And yeah, I've heard amazing things. I don't have it like properly on my TBR. But Genghis Khan, I mentioned this in a previous TBR, in my fall TBR. How I'm obsessed with the Mongol Empire and how I want to get back into my books about it. And that's still the truth. It's not officially on my TBR because I have a lot of books about the topic and maybe it's gonna be this one, maybe it's gonna be another one. But this one also they kind of like are connected, so. Then we have The Art of Asking by Amanda Palmer. This is, if I understand correctly, like a memoir about an artist who found herself in being finally brave enough to ask for help. And I've heard good things about this. I'm very interested to see what I'm gonna think about it. But as an author who sometimes is a bit struggling with her art and, you know, on a mental health journey, literally mental health journey in 2024. I want health is my big topic of 2024. I think this one will be a good one. Then we have Bonesmith, which is, I think, a YA. I'm not quite sure. Don't quote me on that. But I think it's a YA fantasy with one of the most badass covers I've ever seen. I love the cover, not gonna lie. Absolute cover buy, but I'm so intrigued and I've heard very good things about it too. So I'm very excited to give it a try. Then, To Shape a Dragon's Breath. This is indigenous fantasy. Do you need to say anything more than this? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I don't think you need to say anything more than indigenous and fantasy to get me hooked. Thank you. And also dragons. Yes. And the final book is another like psychological book, and that is How to Do the Work, which I had mentioned in a previous TBR at some point during 2023. It was not on my yearly TBR, I think, but it was at some point on a TBR. I've talked about it and I didn't get around to reading it in 2023, but I think 2024, with my whole focus on health, I think it's gonna be the correct book to read. The correct book? Yeah, so correct. It's gonna be a good book to read in 2024. Those were the 10 books I have my eyes on for 2024. But there's of course also the Climathon. If you've watched the announcement video, you already know there is no obligation to read nonfiction. There is no obligation to fulfill all the prompts. Like, the prompts are completely optional and you can read any genre and any type of book that you like, as long as it focuses on nature, the environment, the climate crisis, and or any of the prompts. So that's what Climathon is. However, for me as the host, I obviously want to read as many books for the Climathon as possible. And because I love nonfiction, especially nonfiction about nature, it's going to be very nonfiction heavy, and I'm going to try to have a book for every prompt. Let's see, maybe I can at least do a bingo in some direction, but let's see. I'm not going to give big synopses because otherwise this video is going to be a billion years long. My TBR for the Climathon is very vague. I have like a lot of options for different prompts, and I'm also like absolutely willing to switch things out as the year progresses, because I don't know yet which books I'm going to acquire throughout the year, and maybe I acquire a book that I would love to read for the prompt, or I read a book that I didn't expect to tackle a topic and then it does. And you know, I also will absolutely double up on prompts. Because I'm not that fast of a reader, but I do have books for every single prompt that I have like my eye on. But yeah, just so you know, I will definitely not read all of the books I'm going to mention, but maybe this also inspires you for your own TBR. And for me, this is kind of like the options that I have and the books I would, if in an ideal world, would read for each prompt. The first prompt is a book about plants, and for this I have The Songs of the Trees. I also have this book. This is called Natur nebenan, Nature Next Door, and it's From the Alps to the Ocean, an Entdeckungsreise. Oh no, it's like a journey through our most beautiful landscapes, and I think this is about nature in Germany, but I'm not 100% certain. So I think this might count, but this is definitely on my TBR for 2024. I'm very excited to get to this, to finally learn more about nature where I'm from. Like localize my education, and yeah, I'm very interested to see where this is going. So this might also be a fit, but I'm not quite sure if it's gonna focus on nature a lot or more on a journey through the country. So let's see if this counts. Then for read a book about animals and or fungi, I have The Hidden Lives of Animals by Peter Wohleben, as well as, of course, Entangled Life, a book all about fungi and the mycelium, and yes, thank you. Then we have read a book about consumerism and or capitalism. For this I have two options. One is The Mushroom at the End of the World, and the other one is Consumed. The next prompt is to read a book about the ocean and or alternative water, islands, ice, all that kind of stuff. And for this one I have a book, a German book that would just translate to water, and it just talks about water. Or I could already take a book that I've already read. It was my very first book of the year, started and finished on the 1st of January, and that is this one. This is No Country for 8-Spot Butterflies, and you will see this later on. Just, I could count this also for the ocean space because it talks about islands. Then we have to read a book about connection and or community, and for this I could use this, Entangled Life, you know, the connection in the ground, in the forest. However, I also have my eye on Find Your People. Read a book by an Indigenous author. I already did. Now I'm going to say a few more words about this. So this is written by an Indigenous activist, and it is, I forgot to look up how to pronounce the last name, Julian Agwan. I'm sorry if I butchered that. But this is a very short book from this author, who is an Indigenous activist from Guam specifically, and it talks about like a lot of like the Pacific Islands and their struggles with colonization and, you know, climate change and stuff. I've already read this, as I mentioned, and I think it is a great point to get a lot of Climathon points across, and it's in general just a very interesting, eye-opening book, because while I am educated in a lot of issues, social justice issues and climate issues around the world, somehow the Pacific Islands were just never on the forefront of my mind, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, and this is a fantastic starting point for that. And now I really want to read more, both by the author as well as about the topic in general. Other options I still have for this prompt are The Peacekeeper and Living Resistance. Read a book about revolution and or change. For this one, I think I might still switch out my answer, but I'm not quite sure what else to pick yet. But the book that is currently on my list is Climate Justice. Another option for revolution and change is also this one. I've talked about this before. This unfortunately doesn't have an English translation. This is Wir konnten auch anders, eine kurze Geschichte der Nachhaltigkeit. It says it's a short history of sustainability. It's absolutely not short, but I still would really like to read it, and this perfectly fits that topic as well. Then read a book by an activist. I could still count this one, but I'm also very interested in reading The Book of Hope by Jane Goodall. I'm a huge fan, obviously. Or We Are Displaced, which is a book I also really would like to get to in 2024 regardless. So this one's also definitely on the list as well. And this is your reminder that for this prompt you can also definitely read books about revolution and or change from other groups of people that are not deeply connected with the climate, because the climate crisis is deeply connected with social injustice, and we need a revolution, and we need people who are, you know, inspired to rise up and inspire hope and inspire change. And yeah, just anyway, back to the TBR. Read a book about food. For this, I have a book that I forgot to pick up. It's called Hard to Cost, and it is apparently about how our food is produced. And I also have the Food Mood Connection, which I'm very interested in reading. I think I would probably pick up that one because, again, 2024 is my year of health, and I think this one might be a good companion for both my own journey and the Climathon as well. The next prompt is read a book about Earth. This can be Earth as a planet or Earth in the terms of soil, or any nature science related topic like geology, etc., etc. For this, I have three options on my mind. First one is surfacing. The second one is A Natural History of Our Future. And the most likely that I'm going to read, because I'm really excited about it. Also, it's very short, and I have it physically, and I love physical books so much more than digital ones. And that is this one. It's called Der Boden, das Universum unter unseren Füßen. And as you can probably tell from the cover, it's about soil, about our soil. And yes, thank you. Read a book from a different continent. I could count this one. Or I read Making Kin, Ecofeminist Essays from Singapore. For me, this is also a different continent. As well as, where is it? Here we go. Unbowed, which is another book that's very high on my list for the Climathon and just in general. And I actually think I could also definitely count this for the activist space as well. And the final category is maybe the hardest for me, which is funny, probably because I cannot choose like a very on-the-nose non-fiction book, and that is the category of read a cli-fi or a positive sci-fi. For this one I have a few options, but I don't really have like the one book that I'm gravitating towards, so maybe it will still appear to me, or maybe some kind of sci-fi or book that I read fulfills the prompt by accident. Let's see about that. But the books that came to mind when I thought about the prompt were The Ministry of the Future, Green Rising, or The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, which I'm actually maybe the most excited for of the three. But the thing is, I want to read everything. I'm in such a reading mood. I want to read everything and anything. So let's see. Those are all the books I have my eye on for 2024 and the Climathon in 2024. I know it's been a lot of books. Again, this is just an idea. I will definitely also pick up other books. Please let me know down in the comments below which books you are going to pick up either for the Climathon or in 2024 in general. I would love to know. And with that being said, I talked enough about books. Thank you so much for listening. I better get reading because that list was long. So see you, bye!